wrongful death case, so she wasn't a litigant anyway. She was in the position of an heir. She is not a bad person. I think that point of view, plus the fact her state of mind, is very important in our case. What is her state of mind? What is it that you seek to prove? A number of things rising from that incident. $184 voice for 5 minutes. Starts with question by plaintiff's attorney. Ready? Mrs. Wayne, at the time you met Arlen, and let's say for the first 2 or 3 weeks after, what was your overall impression or opinion of him? Well, he seemed very nice. He was very mellow, comfortable with himself. He made me comfortable. We spent a lot of time together, and he seemed to go out of his way to make me happy or do things to impress me. Was he into discussing his personal affairs? Did he appear to be very open? Yes, he talked about himself quite a lot. And when you met him, did he introduce himself as Arlen? No, he introduced himself as Daryl. And how long did you know him as Daryl? Well, I think it was at least a month before I found out that wasn't his name. He told me to call him at home and gave me his home phone number. He went back to LA and on the weekend, and I tried several times to call, and I was told that no Daryl lives there. And when he came back up, I confronted him with that, and I told him I tried to call like he told me to, and he said his name was really Arlen, because it's hard to remember. Arlen is hard to remember, is that what he told you? Yes. And did that bother you? No, I didn't think too much about it, although every time I was in the Bay Area and wrote letters to him, I would write the address to Arlen, and I would write, Dear Daryl, for quite a while after that. You testified earlier that you were divorced some 15 years prior to meeting him. Did you have any romantic relationships from the time of your divorce up until the time you met him? No. What was your main activities outside of work? I spent a considerable time going to school. I filled my time with classes. We had several local colleges real close to my house, and I went to school nights and had homework weekends. And when I started tiring of that, I joined a local health spa and spent evenings there. Were you looking for a relationship at that time? No, I was not. At the time you met him, what was the rest of your family situation like? Well, let's start with your parents. Were your parents nearby? My parents were out of state. They are in Washington. And do you have children? My son lived in Oregon, and he had moved there recently. Did you have another son? My other son had been killed recently. And you said you met him on your birthday? Yes. Were you a little bit down on your birthday? I was probably a little lonesome. I had spent all day home by myself. In fact, I didn't go out until quite late, and I wasn't going to. I decided I'm not going to sit here by myself on my birthday, so I took myself out for a Coke. Let me try to get back into the chronology of things. And do you recall when it was you first came down to Southern California to meet him? When did I to make your first trip? May 4, 1984. How do you know that date? Because I have a check I wrote for the airport ticket to go down with that date on it. And when you went down the first time, did you bring any cash for him? Yes, I did. Do you recall how much cash that was? $40,000. Is that the cash that you kept in your home? Yes, it would be. When you came down the first time, did you stay at Cherry Valley? We stayed at Simi Valley, but we drove out there and looked at it. So he showed you the property where you would be building? Yes. So at that time, you were already discussing building a garage and going into business? Yes. And was the delivery of the money, at least in your mind, you had made a commitment? Yes. I'll show you some photographs, Mrs. Wayne, 3 photographs which are marked Exhibits 9A, 9B, and 9C. Did you take those, what was the number again? 9A through C. Did you take those photographs, or were they taken in your presence? Yes. And they accurately depict the property on Beaumont Street in Cherry Valley when you first went out there? Yes, I would say so. I'd ask you to look particularly at the photograph marked at 9C. It appears to be a shed of some kind with some old cars. Is that the shed that was on the property? Yes, it is. And that shed had no concrete footings and dirt floors, is that correct? Right. And were there walls on the shed? There was plywood on one side, and that's all. The other 3 walls were open? Yes. Move to admit the 3 photos into evidence. Do you want to be heard on that? I have seen the photos. I thought I gave them to you a long time ago. It will be admitted as 9A, B, and C. Thank you, Your Honor. After your first trip down there and delivery of the $40,000 to him, did the construction commence on building the garage? Yes, it did. Examination by defense attorney. Do you still have that weapon? Yes, I do. Did you ever sell the .380 to anyone else? No. Let me show you another weapon. Well, the court wasn't really saying this is a discovery procedure. No, I understand that, Your Honor. Please proceed. Referring to Q, have you ever seen this weapon before? No, I haven't. I'm putting it back in the envelope and returning it to the bailiff. Did he tell you for what purpose he wanted the .25 semi-automatic? Objection, hearsay, yes or no? Pardon? Yes or no? Objection overruled. No, not that I recollect. Did he pay you in cash? Yes. Did you make any record of who you sold the weapon to? I made out a receipt for his benefit and he didn't take it and I just threw it away. But you kept no record for yourself for your own protection as to who went off with this weapon that was registered to you? No. I have no further questions at this time. Okay. 1, I am sorry. You see this person sitting to my left? Uh-huh. It wasn't him, was it? No. The record shall reflect that at that time, defense counsel was touching the right shoulder of his client, and it is the court's impression that the lack of identification was made by Mr. Martinez concerning the defendant. I have no further questions at this time. Anything? No questions. Mr. Martinez, the court is fascinated by this ability you have to qualify people as to the purchase without application or anything in writing. Could you tell, as best you remember, how you did that day? Well, the fact that he works part-time eliminates him right away, income-wise. And do you think he told you he was a part-time employee? Yeah, I seem to recollect that. Yeah, and then, of course, he might have owned vast tracts of land and apartment houses, and he had other income. Yeah, I would have asked if he had other income, sure. And then also no previous credit history would pretty well shoot him down. How old did you think this person was? Let's see, probably about 28. And no previous credit history? Well, I am not saying that for sure, but if he didn't have any previous credit history, that would eliminate him from being qualified to buy. More typically, you would know from an application where you would ask him to list his Visa, MasterCard. It is a number situation. We run a general ad, and I don't have time to go through an application with him. My time is the only way to make money, so I qualify people real quick. It is easier for me to do it with conversation. If he had previous credit history, I will have him fill out an application and run a TRW. But I can't afford to waste a lot of time on just everybody that comes through the door. Was he alone or with somebody else? He was alone. And are you aware of how he arrived there? Was he driving a vehicle, riding a motorcycle? No, I'm not aware of how he got there. I assume everybody owns a car because I do. But you can't tell us it was a blue Camaro or anything else? No, I can't. Okay, anything further? No. May this witness be excused. One other question. Did you hear the name Renee? Did that come up? No. May this witness be excused? Yes, he may. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Martinez. Call your next witness. I believe my expert is ready, Mr. Paul R. Wiest. All right. Do you have any other witnesses in the hallway? No, Your Honor. Is this your last witness pending the arrival of a pathologist? Right. And I assume that is correct, Your Honor. Okay, fine. I think I have certain stipulations from the district attorney. You two can work that out. Sir, step around here behind the court reporter. Raise your right hand to be sworn, sir. You do solemnly swear the testimony you will give in the cause now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. State your full name, sir. Paul R. Wiest, W-E-A-S-T. Thank you. You may take the stand. Sir, you have testified before, right? Yes, I have, sir. You know all the rules then? I believe I do. Be very brief and crisp in your answers. Yes, sir. Please proceed, Mr. May. Thank you. Could you state your occupation, please? I am a handwriting analyst and document examiner. And did one of my investigators get a hold of you? Yes, at 10 o'clock this morning. We thank you for coming. You have never met me before, have you? No, I haven't, sir. Now, could you tell me your education? In my total education, sir? Yes. I was educated in business administration, and I worked most of my life in sales management, and property management. The business administration end of it, I have taken on the occupation of handwriting analysis since 1976. And have you received any courses in handwriting analyses? Yes, I have. What courses have you received? I received a course, an 18-month course through the International Society that certified me as a handwriting analyst, and also an advanced course, another 18 months that allowed me to have the definition as master. What is that? It is the examiner of handwriting. Question by defense. Even though it was cursory in 30 minutes and it is a qualified opinion, would you say it is probably the signature of Dr. Cooperman? Yes, I would. Well, you have no idea if Dr. Cooperman can even write. Move to strike his conclusion, yes. By a person who identified himself as E.L. Cooperman, I should have caught that. I shouldn't have answered. But we made a muddle of the whole thing. The answer was struck, and the question should have been objected to. Any further questions, or do you care to rephrase that? Objection withdrawn. I care to rephrase. Yes, Your Honor. Move to strike that question if there were any there. 2 or 3 back, I move to strike. Going back to the time of the risk of offending Mr. May ineptly and inartfully, it was asked, and the specific question was asked, is that signature in essence the signature of Dr. Cooperman? Everything after that answer and question are out. I am not offended. When I am inept, I know it. I am willing to accept it. Let me aptly put it. Could you say with a reasonable certainty that the signature on Defendant's Exhibit EE, as it appears on the last 3 pages, is the same as that signature that appears on the Defendant's C on those dates, initialed by Mr. Ron Smith? Yes, I would again. A qualified opinion. It is a qualified opinion that the same person made those signatures, written by one in the same man. Even if it was me, I have no knowledge as to who wrote it. No further questions. Mr. Jensen, when you say it is a reasonable certainty that the 2 signatures are the same, in your mind, is a reasonable certainty qualify between possibility and probability? The reasonable certainty juncture of my examination, there are enough similarities between the 2 to let me rely much heavier on the side of probability. But it is still between possibility and probability? Well, it has to be from the standpoint of the limited amount of time I spent. My own reputation is at stake. I understand. No further questions. No further questions. We are finished with this witness. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for being with us today. And I understand you are under pressure. It has been my experience usually, or other persons who are doing this type of questioning, typically they have weeks to get ready to give opinions. The court appreciates it. I almost turned it down this morning, but it seemed to be urgent, so I didn't. Thank you. Step down carefully. Any further witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. We call your next witness, Investigator Ron Johnson of the District Attorney's Office. Sir, it may help. Did you call him back for some reason? I am suggesting he bring his reports with him. Mr. Johnson, you are still under oath in these proceedings, so you can proceed immediately to the witness stand. If you pass me those documents, I will return them to the clerk. No, I would like them to stay there. Those same documents? Yes, Your Honor. Please proceed. I am showing you Defendant's Exhibit C, a copy. Have you seen this particular document before? Yes. And when or where did you first see that document? It was approximately a week ago. It was passed on to me from the Fullerton Police Department. Do you recall who of the Fullerton Police Department gave it to you? I believe it was Detective Ritter. Would your notes show on or about when your office and the police department got a copy of the Defendant's Exhibit C? No. This is a compound, complex question, Your Honor. Yes, sustained. Can you determine when from your notes you received a copy of this document? Now, maybe he even knows independently. Do you know when you got it? No. I asked about a week ago. That is why I asked to see if he could pinpoint it from his notes. This very question? Yes. Do you think you can pinpoint it from your notes? I may be able. May I have a chance? Give it a look. I guess we started this preliminary a week ago Monday. If that is of any assistance to you at all, I can't tell you the exact date I got them. Can you tell us what week you received it? It would have been sometime around October 24th. Now, directing your attention to Defendant's Exhibit EE for identification. Have you seen those documents before? Yes. And when did you first see these documents? May I look at my notes again? Yes, if it will help you refresh your recollection, please do. The record will reflect that the witness has a standard 3-hole notebook binder that appears to be filled with about 4 inches thick of materials that he is leafing through at this time. I can't exactly, but I estimate it would be around the same time as the first exhibit you showed me. Do you recall having a telephone conversation with the defense regarding the importance of student loan documents which showed Dr. Cooperman was alleging that he lived at Dr. Cooperman's address? Objection, irrelevant. What is the relevance? If you allow the question, then I will tie it up. No. It is, what is the relevance of this? This is an effort to tie it down. It is a very short time for you to get the handwriting opinion. Now, the court is not troubled by that. No, I am going to ask the opposite question, Your Honor. What is the relevance, offer of proof? Well, I withdraw that question and ask another question. All right, there is nothing pending as far as the objection goes. What effort, if any, have you made or had caused to be made to have a handwriting analysis comparison made of those signatures of Dr. Cooperman? Objection, irrelevant. Objection overruled. We haven't requested any comparisons as of this date. Okay, question by defense attorney. This is for readback. I am showing you Defendant's Exhibit C, a copy. Have you seen this particular document before? Yes. And when or where did you first see that document? It was approximately a week ago. It was passed on to me from the Fullerton Police Department. Do you recall who of the Fullerton Police Department gave it to you? I believe it was Detective Ritter. Would your notes show on or about when your office and the police department got a copy of the Defendant's Exhibit C? No. That is a compound, complex question, Your Honor. Yes, sustained. Can you determine when from your notes you received a copy of this document? Now, maybe he even knows independently. Do you know when you got it? No. I asked about a week ago. That is why I asked to see if he could pinpoint it from his notes. This very question? Yes. Do you think you can pinpoint it from your notes? I may be able. May I have a chance to give it a look? I guess we started this preliminary a week ago Monday. If that is of any assistance to you at all, I can't tell you the exact date I got them. Can you tell us what week you received it? It would have been sometime around October 24th. Now, directing your attention to Defendant's Exhibit EE for identification. Have you seen those documents before? Yes. And when did you first see these documents? May I look at my notes again? Yes, if it will help you refresh your recollection, please do. The record will reflect that the witness has a standard 3-hole notebook binder that appears to be filled with about 4 inches thick of materials that he is leafing through at this time. I can't exactly, but I estimate it to be around the same time as the first exhibit you showed me. Do you recall having a telephone conversation with the defense regarding the importance of student loan documents, which showed Dr. Cooperman was alleging that he lived at Dr. Cooperman's address? Objection, irrelevant. What is the relevance? If you allow the question, then I will tie it up. No, it is. So what is the relevance of this? If this is an effort to tie it down, it is very short time for you to get the handwriting opinion. The court is not troubled by that. No, I am going to ask the opposite question, Your Honor. What is the relevance? Offer of proof. Well, I withdraw that question and ask another question. All right. There is nothing pending as far as the objection goes. What effort, if any, have you made or had caused to be made to have a handwriting analysis comparison made of those signatures of Dr. Cooperman? Objection, irrelevant. Objection overruled. We haven't requested any comparisons as of this date. I have no further questions. Any questions? No, Your Honor. It is your opportunity to ask him how he spends his time and things like that under oath. You may step down. I passed my chance. Call your next witness. We have no further witnesses, but we have some stipulations, Your Honor. You, at this point, have concluded, except for a pathologist tomorrow morning. Yes. Well, let me give you a qualified answer, Your Honor. Your Honor, what I would like to do is request a short recess at this time so I may get together with the district attorney regarding certain stipulations. It is my experience that they always go smoother if you write them down. Grab a yellow pad and write your words. You agree. That is correct. There is another thing that has come up that might alleviate the requirement of calling a witness. If I do not get a stipulation, this is going to have to do with a bank statement. $200 for voice. Starts with question by plaintiff. Let me show you some more photographs that are marked 10A through 10I. Appears to show some construction on the property. Could you briefly look at the back and tell us what the letter is and what the picture depicts? I put these, my letters or yours. These were on there. The clerk put them on there so we could identify them into the record. And so it should mean nothing to you. Okay. This is the picture of the man who was hired. He was working on the footings for the property. He lived on the property before I was there, and when I first came there to live, he was caretaking it before I got there. His name is Joe. Maybe I can speed this up. 10B, is that also additional construction on the footings on the side of the building? Yes. And 10C, that's the floor footing? Right. And this is the long view of the new footing being put in? Yes, from the distance, I guess. Yes, 10E, can you tell what that shows? Some of the materials stacked around the cars pulled out so we could start on the inside, probably starting on the floor inside. 10F shows some new pillars. Do you know what those are for? Support pillars put in before we could start pouring the floor. Now that was because the roof was not accurately supported? Right. And 10G, the roof wasn't tall enough or support enough. And we put these huge beams in and had to squeeze them under the roof to raise the roof and give more support. These are the massive wood beams that are pushing, yes, it was kind of done backwards. 10H, that's the supports again, showing how they are going to be anchored into concrete. And finally, 10I, that's another photo, the beam being installed in the building, taken from the inside of the building. There was several of those. All of this work had to be done just to make the shack that was on the property usable, correct? Object, sustained. I move to admit the photo shown as Exhibit 10. Do you wish to be heard? No. Those 9 photos will be admitted as 10A through H inclusively. At the time this work was discussed, that was going on, to the best of your knowledge, that was funded by the cash you had given to him. Yes, in fact, it was your understanding that all of the construction going on was done by your funding. Object, leading, sustained. I'll show you more photos. These are the next stage of development, I guess, marked 11A through I. Would you briefly tell us what they depict? Do you want me to read the numbers too? Perhaps I can read them and hand them to you. The first would be 11A. That's the form poured for the very large concrete wall that was put up on one end of the building, the tall part of the building. And 11B, that's the hole dug for the septic tank on the opposite end. So there was underground construction needed as well, yes. And 11C, that's the lines going from the septic tank hole for that too. 11D, that's the septic tank being installed. And 11E, can you describe what that is? It looks like the hoist being put in the tall end of the building before the floor could be put in. Where was the hoist located? It's facing the front door. It would be on the left side in the front. And what kind of hoist is this? It's, I guess, hydraulic. That's for lifting cars up like they have in service stations, right? I'll show you 11F. Okay, this was taken from inside the building. It shows the wire and the plastic and the pipes and everything that's on the ground before the concrete was poured. And they've got the forms ready to pour concrete. And 11G, that's basically taken from the same area, and it shows a little bit of the concrete on the left side. The low part of the building that was already poured. It was poured in 2 large sections. 11H, this is a picture showing the corner of the low part of the building and the beginning of the construction on the tall end of the building, the large wall that we kept referring to as the wall. They've taken the forms off, and it took 3 different pours of concrete to pour that wall. There's a lot of concrete in that wall. Do you know why that wall needed to be a concrete wall? I know there is, they call it I don't remember the word for it, extension of 5 feet or something on the top.